What's up, Flyers fans and draft junkies? Welcome back to the HW Hockey Show, your home for deep dives, draft analysis, and everything orange and black. Today, we're breaking down the 2025 NHL Draft Combine, from the standout prospects who turned heads to the risers, fallers, and hidden gems you need to know heading into the draft. We've got a very special guest joining us, Russ Cohen, NHL draft expert from Sportsology and co-host of Locked On Flyers. Russ was on the ground in Buffalo, and he's bringing the insider perspective you won't find anywhere else. So buckle up, hit that like button, and let's get into what really went down at the 2025 NHL Combine and what it means for the future of the Flyers. All right, Russ, thanks for joining the show. We mentioned you had boots on the ground up in Buffalo. You're there pretty much every year, it seems, right?
Every year. I've been there. I don't know, too many years to count.
And so, I kind of want to start off with, you've been doing this a long time. And I guess, number one, does it ever get old for you? I mean, I know your passion is prospects and watching some of these younger guys. But does it ever get old going up to the NHL Combine and talking to these guys and watching these guys?
No, and they make it harder every year. Like I'm running, I'm taking videos, I'm interviewing 2-3 players at a time. I'm trying to get a guy before he leaves. But I still love it. I do.
And what are some of your favorite parts? What do you look forward to doing the most when you're up there?
Once in a while, I don't mind seeing like a physical freak doing something on the testing. It's hard because I can't track the testing all day. If I did, I'd miss half the interview. So I catch what I catch. If I feel like somebody might excel at something, I do it. So like I saw Anton Fondell do his vertical. He excelled. I got over 20,000 views on a video for that, which is shocking to me. And so I guess I got that one right. So I look for little things like that.
That's good stuff, man. Glad to hear you're doing well. You put out great content. If you guys haven't checked out Russ's site already, which I'm sure you have, sportsology.com puts out content like really nobody else puts out. You're there. We mentioned boots on the ground.
Also, NHLDraftBuzz.com. That's really my draft site, but Sportsology just covers like the events and stuff now for draft stuff.
Outstanding stuff. Okay, so we have you for just about a half an hour here. Let's get into some of the prospects that you saw and watched. You mentioned Anton Fondell. What can you tell us from meeting him up close and personal, and from what you saw at the Combine?
Yeah, I mean, his vertical. I think he was like one of the top 2 in VO2 max. He's a physical freak. Like we already knew he was big and strong, but he's big and strong and very athletic. So there's that. He's an impressive guy to talk to. He's down to earth and honest, self-reflective. And so you put that together with the kind of shot he has, the kind of physicality he could have, the skating, the fact that he's a center, and he may have moved up just from the Combine, because I am a believer that between the interviews, because this is like their final exam. When these guys interview, it's like their final exam. So with that, and then they see how he does like that in the Combine, like it's going to get mentioned, when teams are going over their draft boards for sure.
Now, this is a player that a lot of Flyers fans have interest in. Big body forward, can play center, has been rumored, might be a winger. How do you foresee this? I'm not going to ask you to predict the draft, but can he play center in the NHL?
I would say he will play center. I think there's a chance he could be a top line center. Most likely a second line center, but yeah, no question he's a center. Like he's the real deal.
So this is a guy the Flyers should absolutely have interest in drafting at 6.
Yeah. Oh no, if he's even there. Like I don't know if he'll be there. But if he's there, they're going to have big interest in him for sure. Like I know they have interest in him already. So,
okay, that's good to hear. I think a lot of Flyers fans needed to hear that. It's that time of year where all kinds of names are flying all over the place, and more specifically, a player like a Brady Martin. Who did you have the chance to see him at all?
Yeah, I didn't. I think I saw him doing pull-ups, and he's a strong kid. We know he's physical, so everybody's going crazy over that. Yeah. He went out to dinner with the Flyers. I think people shouldn't look too far into that one. I think they went out to dinner with him because a lot of other teams took those other guys. So I think he was like the next logical one to take, just so they could, find out a little bit more about him. I like him as a player. I think he has to work on his skating. I think he definitely can, pick top corners like other guys too. And I know the physicality is what's sort of putting him over the top right now. He's 6 foot. He's not the biggest guy, but he plays bigger. But, my issue is, years ago, and I'm not comparing the two as far as how they play, but like Barrett Hayton was drafted 6 overall once upon a time, and he's never been able to get over the 45, 46 point mark. Martin will probably get over that, but I don't know how much over that. And that's my only worry about Brady Martin. And so, because again, Barrett Hayton, I mean, if he were a Flyers player and they drafted him 6th overall and he had this kind of production, they'd be complaining about him.
I would agree. And, he sounds like a fun player to watch. He's a fun player to watch. But if there's a guy like Jake O'Brien that's still out there at 6, and it's between Jake O'Brien and a Brady Martin, which way would you lean?
Jake O'Brien. I had that exact argument up on my NHL Draft Buzz, Brady Martin versus Jake O'Brien. And so, yes, it would be Jake O'Brien because he has greater vision, better skater. Got a lot to go, though, as far as putting on muscle, but I think he has the frame that can do it. So I think it'll take, multiple years for him to do that. But very smart kid, really exceptional vision. Like, that's his big gift.
That's a player that I would like to see the Flyers interested at 7.
They're interested in him. I just don't know. I just don't know to the degree. I think they took him to dinner. I have to go back and look at my own report. He may have been a dinner guy too.
Okay.
But would say that I believe they're more interested in a few other guys. But if there's a run on centers and it's coming down to Jake O'Brien, I don't think they would hesitate to take him.
Okay, so I guess what you're saying, if there's a Denoier, Fondell, 2 guys like that available at 6, they're taking those guys over an O'Brien. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's kind of move a little bit further along here. A guy that, so the list that I say, I had a couple stars next to a couple names there. And you notice I didn't have any stars next to Caleb Denoier. I just assumed that he's going to be gone by 6th. If the people listening have listened to your Locked On show, you mentioned that the Flyers actually do like this kid, that he might be their number 1 choice if he's available. Can you tell us anything about Denoier from the Combine?
Yeah, and the reason I say he might be their number 1 choice if he's available, because I think they're assuming that Fondell and Hagens will be gone, and I think that's why. A couple things. I mean, he could be physical himself. He's a really good skater, excellent shot. Definitely could play an NHL style game. The Q, is it a little easier to score in the Q? Sure, but I've been impressed with him. He's good on faceoffs already. Smart kid, definitely better than his brother for those Flyers fans that want to say something snarky about him. It's not like that. And, but the edges, they probably have been hearing about him for 2-3 years through his brother, besides, watching him, and they share an agent. And so, there's something there. His, according to Instat, 1.79 hits per game. Now, the only thing that worries me, and I'm always going to bring up both sides for all these players, is 17% defensive zone starts. That's kind of like not great, but it's also the Q, and they're taking advantage of his offense. But excellent skating with defenders on him, and that's a big key. Like when he's got guys on him, he could still make plays, and that's why I think his game can translate. And very quick wrist shot, really like it.
Is this a guy that you see projecting as more of a 2C or like a 1C light?
1C chance, 2C definite.
Okay. And so something that's come up a little bit more often now with the draft coming up on our show is, aside from potentially Misa, who I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on, is there a bona fide 1C in this draft class still?
I think there's a lot of guys that I would give the same report on, like could be a 1C, may not be a 1C. Hagen's in that group. Misa, I don't think is a 1C, honestly. Fondell, good chance. I think Fondell and Denoier have the best chance of being 1Cs, but it still doesn't mean they're the best players. It just means they could play that position to where the point where I think they're a 1C. I think there's a distinction there.
I would agree. It's kind of a funny draft because you have a bunch of guys that can play the center position, whether it's you can plug them into the top line, but I think I'd feel safer, just plugging them into the second line, right? And you have a bunch of guys you can kind of mix and match for the 4, 5, 6 spots in this draft there. Okay, let's move along.
Into the second line. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Who did you say you were mixing into the second line?
Players like Denoier, Fondell.
You're assuming Chet Luchenko's a 1C. I would agree if he is.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm kind of like, yeah, he's one of those guys for me too. Is he a 2C?
Right.
Will he eventually, is
somebody's
he going
to play 1C, but doesn't always mean, it's like anything else. Sometimes you just have to have somebody do it.
Right. Yep. Totally agree. Okay, let's move on a little bit here. So I guess one of the bigger stories from the Combine was Roger McQueen. The news came out before the Combine that they misdiagnosed his back injury, and that's perfect timing to come out with that news. I think he performed okay at the Combine. Did you have a chance to talk to him and maybe watch him at all?
I did. I didn't get a chance to watch him, but he went through everything and he wasn't supposed to. But again, if you look up this injury, the way that stress fracture is, it could flare up at any time in the future. What he did talk about, and he was very honest, and I like the kid. I mean, he's a very honest kid. He goes, I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you, and I don't believe he is. But I also think he's not going to tell you if the doctor told him that it could flare up in the future either.
Yeah.
That's, he's not going to add that little extra. But he did say that even for something like this, he has to warm up for a long time. And he said because he's a long body, but it's really because of his back. I've never heard a player who's that big say that it takes them a long time to warm up because they're big. So that's the little thing that he kind of let slip in his interview, but he didn't have to let that slip. I liked everything he said. I think he proved himself to a point. I still would not take him with a 6th overall pick because I don't care that he's a 6'5" center. What I care about is that he might have flare-ups in the future that would keep him out of games. And then what if, God forbid, he turns into Nolan Patrick and the Flyers have a 6th pick on him, and then everybody says in retrospect, well, he was healthy at the draft, at the Combine, but then he wasn't. Like, do you want to roll the dice on that? I for one do not.
It's hard to be valuable when you're not available, right? So,
right.
I would agree. The player that I would stay away from, and if he has success, has himself a decent career, that's great.
I'm all happy for him. It's just that it's like if someone says, Russ, you got to make this pick and your job depends on it, I'm not making the pick.
Right.
Right. Sometimes these guys' jobs do depend on it. Like, it's easy for me. I always tell people, I can go out here, make my lists, make all the proclamations in the world. Nobody's firing me. I'm my own boss, and nobody's firing me. But scouts get fired all the time.
That's great perspective right there. It's true. Okay, let's move on a little bit here. So 2 of the players that are probably going to go a little bit later on in the draft, or maybe they could even jump up. You never know. But the first one let's get to here is Kashawn Aitchison. Did you have a chance to speak with him or watch him?
I've spoken with him earlier in the year, and I really got as much as I needed to get from him. I didn't need to watch him. I know he's a great athlete. He's got an athletic family. He is like a cerebral assassin. He wants to get in guys' heads. He wants to make sure that they're thinking about him when he's going into the corner so he could win that corner battle, or he'll try and smash him in the corner. Either way, he has a good offensive game. I don't think it's going to be as good as it is in juniors, and I think teams are going to be looking for him to play more of a role like that, more of that agitating, tougher defenseman. And then, hey, yeah, sure, give us points. But I think that other thing is what sets him apart in this draft. I don't think he's a top 10, but the way the draft is skewing big, and the way that GMs are looking at guys for physicality these days, it could make a move up in the draft. Like if a team did take him in the top 10, I would be a little surprised, but not shocked.
Yeah, this is a guy that, the Flyers are picking 22 later on in the first round. I don't see him sliding to 22. Right?
I don't either.
If they want to go after this guy,
they would have to trade that extra pick and probably a second to move up and get him.
Yeah, but a player that I would love to.
Oh, sure. I mean, you'd love him on your team. There's no question. He's a great kid. He
It's fun to
You know,
watch.
he scores on 56% of his shots, but I don't think that's going to last. But he wins 61% of puck battles, which is a big deal.
Oh, yeah, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's slide down a little bit more here. And we have a player that is maybe getting talked about a little bit more now in Cole Rashny. A very fun player, a player that I enjoy watching. What are your thoughts on Rashny? Did you have a chance to speak with him?
I did. I like Rashny. You know, he gives you those vibes of Travis Konechny. I remember Konechny in his draft year, and Rashny, you know, talked about Konechny. He's around the same size. He will run through a brick wall for you. He's an excellent puck distributor, fast, does everything you'd want. He actually was the only player who, besides saying he liked the Flyers, could really recite probably what they told him and what he thinks, like, hey, in the future, they could be an exciting team. They're trying to build something there. Like, he said all of that. He's the only guy that said it that way to me. And so it made me think like he was really sort of invested in the Flyers. And I do think he's a guy, like, there's no question that after speaking to him, I liked him anyhow. I think I ranked him 22nd or 3rd, something like that, something in the 20s. And if he were in the 20s, I would have no problem taking him. According to Instat, 31% defensive zone starts. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That means they really trust him out there. And so that's a big deal. He also was putting off 5.7 shots per game, scoring, but his faceoffs, 56%. Like, that's impressive. And he really is good at sniffing out loose pucks around the net. So besides that and everything else, he has good acceleration. He can get behind the defense, but he's going to have to work on his skating to be able to do that in the NHL.
We got a special guest tonight, huh?
Yep, Anna.
Hey, Anna.
Here. What's up?
She's a big Cole Rashny fan, apparently.
She's a big Cole Rashny fan. She loves her hockey, but let me put her out for a second.
Yeah, sure. So what I'm interested in seeing is if a player like Cole Rashny, because I think he's listed at center now. I'm interested to see if he can be a center in the NHL. I know he's listed 5'10". When Russ gets back, you know, we'll see if we can get a height check on him. Because some of these guys, they list them a little bit taller than they are for whatever reason. Russ, we're still talking about Rashny here.
Yeah.
He's listed as a center, and you mentioned you brought up his face-off percentages.
Yep.
Is this someone who will play center in the NHL, you think? Can you project that?
It's 50-50. You know, I always use Konechny as an example. Like, I knew Travis Konechny was not playing center, even though he talked about playing center back in the day, and they talked about him being a center back in the day. But when you're winning faceoffs like that and the kind of the way he plays, I give it a percentage chance. I can't say, look, based on the offense he has, he's not playing top 6 center, right? So it's like, it's either third line center or something else.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. That makes sense. Okay, let's kind of move off some guys that weren't on the list that I sent here, but I think, you know, are pretty notable names.
You're going off the board now. Okay.
Going off the board, sorry. So a couple of these guys you talked about on your Locked On show, Will Horov, I thought was interesting because his name came up. The Flyers, I think, spent a lot of time with him. 6'4", 6'5", one of the youngest, if not the youngest in the draft. He's a center from Michigan. What can you tell us about Horov? Did you have the opportunity to speak to him?
Oh yeah. His father, Sean, you know, played in the league. He roomed with Cullen Potter, and what was funny was I spoke to Cullen Potter too, who the Flyers spoke to. Horov was dead set on setting this, you know, horizontal jump, they call it, but really like a long jump record he did. And Potter didn't know anything about it. He goes, I roomed with him, and I didn't realize that was the case. But he was very competitive. He went to Michigan mid-season, which was kind of a gutsy thing, and he had pretty good numbers. He's not a big offensive player, but he did come on the second half of the season, does have the size, does have the physicality, you know, something like 1.27 hits per game, according to Instat again. So good numbers, get some power play time because he could be a net front guy. So, yeah, there's something there. 45% on faceoff, so he's got to get a little better. 23% defensive zone starts, got to get better. But there's things to like.
Is this a player you think maybe they could take with one of their 3 second-round picks and they let him cook a little slower?
I think there's a chance he would be there for the second round pick. don't know that for sure because the way this league is valuing size, he could be gone by 30, 31 or something just because
Yeah,
that's a team that has a first rounder, has nothing else until like the third round, then decides, yeah, we need to get a big guy. So, but I think it's possible he could slip a little.
very true. Okay.
I'm not sure it's slipping, but just getting to the second round.
Yeah, sure. So, I have a few more names here, but I'm
Okay.
curious, maybe who stood out to you as a, maybe not a name that you were expecting to leave with, thoughts of, wow, this guy really made an impression on me, whereas I didn't really have that opinion going in.
Well, I had a decent opinion of Jacob Romach, and he's a 6'6" defenseman out of he was USHL, and he, a bunch of players. I shouldn't say a bunch, but at least two or three said that he was the hardest guy to play against, and he took that as a badge of courage. He was like, "Hey, that's nice to hear." Really down to earth, personable kind of guy for a 6'6" guy that could, really hurt you out there. I did have him originally ranked in the first round, then I kind of took him out, and so he's one of those that kind of gives me buyer's remorse afterwards. But I didn't go back and switch it. I mean, I could do whatever the heck I want, right? But I didn't. But there's probably a team that would take him in the first round. So if the Flyers were going to get him, they might have to use that last first rounder if they hold on to all of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So a player that I think a lot of people were talking about maybe this time last year in Ivan Ryabkin. And I think you and I maybe even talked about him early on
Yep.
in the Flyers season. I think was even a top 5, top 10 potential pick around this time last year. He's now potentially falling out of the first round or going at the very end. A lot of people are projecting. Was he at the Combine?
He was. I didn't see a lot of him. He looks like a big kid. I did see him down there for a minute or two. It was just one of these things where he scores goals and he didn't get a lot of assists. And before that, he was more of an assist guy. So I don't know like what's happened with his game. I think his work ethic is a little bit in question. The motor. I use Alex Nylander as an example. Alex Nylander had all these traits that look great, like his brother William, and William put it all together, and Alex never did. He never played a full 60. So far I have not seen Rapkin play a full 60, even in the playoffs. And so he had a chance to shine. He did. He got a lot of points, 16 points in 14 games for Muskegon, but I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really what you want to hear.
No matter what.
Wow. Okay. All right. Anybody else that maybe is coming to mind for you that I didn't have on this list here that maybe Flyers fans, haven't heard of or they should be reading about leading
up? Let's see. I would say, yeah, there was somebody. Waste time for a minute. I got to go to my list because.
Okay. Yeah. So I had a couple more guys on my list here. I'm not sure if these will ring any bells here, but I have Cole McKinney and Carter Amico, and not just because he's Italian, but he's a big 6'5" right-handed D. So I was curious, if you had the chance to speak to him or watch him, because this is a guy that, the Flyers are drafting some of these bigger D. They need to get bigger on the back end. Ristolainen's going to be out for a while. They have a Hunter McDonald coming up. They've been rumored to be in on guys like Nicholas Hague. If Carter Amico's out there, why not just draft your own guy?
Yeah, a couple things. So Carter Amico, at least I heard him pronounce it that way. Big kid, 235 pounds, certainly plays with a lot of aggression, can skate well, can pass well. I had him in the first round until he kept getting injured, and he's got a little bit of an injury history now. So that's a little bit concerning for me. So would I draft him with a first round pick? I would not. Based on the injury history, I could not do that with good conscience. So I would have to wait and, see if he's in the second round. And I still probably wouldn't do it until like my third second round pick.
Okay.
Just to be honest. I'll tell you another guy, Shane Visanji, plays at Michigan. Really physical player, can skate, plays a good two-way game. Let's see if I can bring up some of his stats from Instat because he's an impressive kid.
I did see his name pop up quite a bit after this.
Yeah, well, the Flyers spoke to him, and he's been a guy that's been watched this year for sure. And I like him. I like his makeup. He's tough. He knows how to get into scoring areas. I don't think he's going to be a big-time scorer, but I think he's one of these guys that you have to have on a team. And I think he's a really valuable, high-character guy. And I think based on looking at his build, he really did work out well in Michigan. Like, Michigan knows how to put guys together. Like, that's a program where you don't worry about a guy coming out of there. You know, they know what they're doing there. They know the trainers are excellent there. A lot of the guys from the NTDP end up going there because they know the trainers. So there's a good inside thing. Yeah, Basanji, power play PK, not a lot of shots per game, 2.7, but again, he's playing in college. 15% defensive zone starts. Right wing, 12 minutes on the ice. He'll get more next year. Yeah, I think he's a guy, 1.76 hits per game. So if you don't get Brady Martin, you get him. He's one of those guys that he's a bottom six guy, but can bring it a little physically. And I think he's, got a little bit of offense there too.
Okay.
I'll give you another guy too that the Flyers met with that is an interesting guy.
Sure.
Ben Kindle, not the biggest guy, certainly forechecks, plays hard, has skill. Interesting guy. He had a lot of points this year, and I kind of wonder with like that second first-round pick, if they didn't go for a guy like Ravensburgen, who I might go for, would they want to get Kindle and then wait and hope that Ravensburgen's there with the next pick?
Yeah,
it's one of those things. I think, that could be a calculated one, especially if, let's just say the way they go with their first couple of picks. That's where it's going to matter. Like, if they go with, a bigger center for that first pick and they don't get Rashny because maybe somebody else likes him, he's another 5'10" guy, but he could really play. Now, he scored 99 points in the dub, and I think he's capable of scoring a fair amount of points in the NHL. So we'll see. Like, he's one of those guys that could be a real point producer. I didn't have him on my list because there's still a few things I worry about in his game. There is, it's not so much the size. I don't think his speed is good enough yet. And I think that he was getting away with a lot in the dub as far as how he scored. And I'd like to see, but still, if you get a guy like that, there's some potential there. So if you get in him with your third first-round pick, great. If it's the second one, maybe depending on who's on the board or not, just because there is that potential for offense. And he's really good on the give and go too. So he's one of those guys you figure he's not a top liner, but if he ever gets out there with a guy like Michkov or another one of the Luchenko, any of those guys, with the give and go ability he has, he can really make some things happen. He has a very quick release too.
Okay, great stuff. We're coming to the end here, so I do want to ask you one more thing. You recently put out an article about the junior Canadian leagues, the players being able to transfer to American colleges and play in the college hockey league. Do you foresee a lot of these guys hitting college now before they?
Yeah, matter of fact, I spoke with somebody's parents who is going to be a top 15 pick. And they were thinking about a school, and they were asking my opinion about the school, and so yes, these players know the NIL money's there. They know the schools can share it with them now. I point that out in the article. That's important because they're not going to get like Arch Manning money or anything like that, but they're going to get more money than junior hockey could ever offer them, and they're going to get an education as well. So yes, it's going to happen. I think Gavin McKenna, as I wrote in the article, could end up at Penn State. He can end up at Michigan State, but I'm pretty sure he's going to end up in the States because he can get paid. So I think we're going to see quite a few of these guys, but I think they're waiting to do it So like a guy like Jackson Smith, even though there was word that he had already committed to Penn State, he hadn't yet, and he was correct in saying that at the draft, and he hadn't visited the campus yet based on that Saturday, but he was going to go there. He was headed there, and I'm pretty sure he's going to go there. So yeah, you look at that. You look at even Michael Misa. If he doesn't get signed to a pro contract, it's possible he can go to Penn State and play with Luke. So his brother.
Yeah. One of the viewers had mentioned, I think it was Keith, mentioned that McKenna could go to Penn State.
He could.
So that'd be interesting. Russ, we're just about a half an hour in here. I know you're one of the busiest guys in the country this time of year. You're very popular. You have another show you got to get on to. So why don't we wrap this up?
Yeah. Also want to tell people they can buy my book Game Winners at Amazon.com. Makes a good Father's Day gift. It's out there now. Fun stuff, a lot of flyer stuff in there. So a lot of game winning goals, Olympics, Winter Classic, things like that. Only game winners though. So check it out.
Yes, please do. Great book. I have it. I don't know if you could see it right back here on my bookshelf.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, great stuff there, Russ. Huge thanks for coming on. Make sure you guys check out Sportsology and Locked On Flyers, where Russ shares his thoughts firsthand, straight from Buffalo, or what he saw in Buffalo. Always a pleasure having one of the sharpest minds in the game break things down for us. Make sure you're subscribed to HW Hockey so you don't miss our upcoming draft profiles, trade rumors, and deep dive Flyers coverage as we inch closer to draft day. Make sure you guys leave a comment, give us a like, and if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe. That's going to do it for our episode. Russ, thanks again for taking the time. We always appreciate it. Always a pleasure having you on.
Yep, thanks for having me on, Jimmy.
All right, we're going to wrap this one up. We'll see you guys tomorrow night with Jack. For Russ, I'm Jim. Don't forget to keep it high, keep it wide. We'll see you next time on HW Hockey.